Now they can hear me. Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Dolby?
Not a whole lot. Crazy things in the market today, but very excited to be joining you. Coach Jay and Paul, which is fantastic. I'll be joining you guys today, tomorrow, and Thursday as I get prepared to learn how to run the stream like a boss, just like Coach Jay.
Just like Coach Jay, who forgot our our other host. I'm gonna bring him in here in a second. What's going on, Coach Paul? How are we doing?
Yeah, I felt lost in the Twitter sphere there for a second. I'm doing good. Good to see you, Dolby time with us. Welcome.
Yeah, this should be fun. Looking forward to chatting it up and see what you guys talk about. But I'm gonna let you guys cook and chime in when you guys say so.
Awesome stuff. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to At the Buzz, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. Been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 13 years and in the futures markets for the past 6. That's Coach Paul over there. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll have our guest introduce himself as well.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures industry as a trader for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience and knowledge and perhaps help you become a better trader.
Awesome stuff. And Mr. Dolby time, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us how long you've been with Topstep, what you might be doing here today, and then we'll go ahead and get into the markets.
Yes, Jay, thank you so much. I am Dolby Time, also known as Nick, but no one calls me that unless I'm in trouble. And like my claim to fame, I guess, is that I was the 123rd trader ever at Topstep. So I have been a long time futures prop firm guy. I've seen pretty much every single iteration of every evaluation trading combine that's ever existed pretty much. And I've also made probably every single mistake there is to make in trading, probably several times at least. And from that, I like sharing my experiences from those mistakes and helping people get better at trading. And I also love trading ranges. It is my most favorite thing in the whole wide world. So I can talk about that anytime, anywhere, any place.
Awesome stuff. We got a pretty big range that we're going to talk about a little bit later, Dolby. I want to get your opinions on it. But let's take a look at the news really quick. As far as planned news goes, there wasn't too much on the books today. I think what is going to be the big news of this week, of course, NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday after the close. That's what the markets are, can't even say waiting for after this sell-off that we had today, but that is going to be the big news this week with NVIDIA's earnings to see how that goes. But we know how these markets work. Planned news is kind of taking the back seat to unplanned headlines. And really all we got today was, Trump had a couple of conversations, some headlines that came out of that. On Canada and Mexico, tariffs are on schedule as planned. We know that the markets kind of rallied after hearing that those were going to be delayed, but delayed doesn't mean canceled. We're hearing that we're going to go ahead and go forward with those, so the market's selling off a little bit, but of course, that can change at any time as well. Anything you guys see on the news front?
Much the same, like you just said, that can change at the speed of a tweet. So, but the news itself, NVIDIA, I almost think NVIDIA has to have good earnings to save this market the way it's
Pretty
moving.
much.
Selling early and short covering back to weakness. It's a consistent pattern. That is not a pattern of a healthy market. So I think NVIDIA needs to save the day for stock bulls. And otherwise, it's falling on its own weight.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Dolby, anything you go ahead?
Yeah, I was saying, Kush, I love that you cover the news. I think it is incredibly important as a new trader to stay on top of the news because it can help you set up your day for the next day. It can help set up your expectations So we have NVIDIA on Wednesday, so we can look at Tuesday and start kind of drawing our lines, start making assumptions. Like with NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday, do we think we're going to get a ton of volatility? Are we going to get huge breakouts? Probably not. Typically, what ends up happening is that before big news days, you get lots of consolidation. And there's two kind of big formations to look out for. One is like the megaphone, the other one is the Dorito. And those type of two formations typically occur before major news events because big sideline players are sitting on the sidelines waiting to basically put money in the market. And so you can get shorter time frame traders in the market kind of just batting the ball back and forth. And so if you're like a newer trader and if you've ever like hopped into the market and you're like, why the hell is the market so slow? Well, there's probably a news event happening soon. If not today, then the following day. It's probably what's happening.
Probably so. I'm gonna switch over to your charts in a minute, Dolby. Have you kind of look at those Doritos, but let's take a look at the quote board. We have 35 different markets that we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities. And today, to the downside, we had wheat futures down 1.74%, soybean oil down 2.2%, and natural gas, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 3.17%. To the upside, we had micro Ethereum futures up 0.59%. Live cattle up 0.61%, and crude seeing a spike towards the end of the day, up 0.64%. To round out our big four, we had the S&Ps down 0.39%. We already talked about crude. We have gold up 0.44%, and the NASDAQ down 1.16% for our biggest percentage mover in our big four. I got a 30-minute chart up here on the NASDAQ. Coach Paul, tell me what you were seeing on this chart in the NASDAQ here.
I see a white line that was not punctured or settled over. And volume with VWAP underneath all of it all day.
Yep.
To make it, I mean, just reading and reacting is there's no buying into this, no sustained buying. I think the buying's coming, like I said, from short covering. The biggest volume candles are selling candles. That's why I made the comment before, unless NVIDIA has some crazy earnings, and I agree with Dolby, those usually are short, like lightning strikes. But this market needs a theme to own it. Right now, the uncertainty and volatility is continuing. If you had to move a large amount of money and you were an owner, it's going to be hard to get out because it's showing that volume cannot handle, or the market can't handle selling volume right now. So
100%.
sustaining those imbalances, short time, Dolby gets a chance to halfway through the day in the range. We've seen this pattern: early selling, first hour, then the selling stops, then it does what it does, floats and goes into a range, only to be more selling at the close. How about you, Dolby?
Yeah, I mean, speaking of ranges, NASDAQ is kind of in the mother of all ranges. So if you pull up a weekly chart in the NASDAQ, there's
if you want,
a
Dolby, I
range.
can go over to your charts if you want.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Show
yeah.
us what we're looking at. Let me
Yeah, for
switch
sure, man.
over here. There we go. We got your charts up now.
Cool. Perfect. Like live? Yes,
Yep.
there we go. Excellent. Okay. So as a range trader, I'm always looking for the biggest ranges possible and marking those down on my chart. So you start at the weekly, daily, 4-hour, and go all the way down. So for the weekly chart, there's a really clear range. I have it highlighted right now. It's the low, I would say, is approximately 20,700 all the way up to 22,455. So it's absolutely massive. And I kind of feel like what we were seeing last week was a failed breakout of new highs. And I think this is actually Brian Shannon's saying is come failed moves, come fast moves. And what can happen is that buyers at new highs start getting an inkling that, oh, maybe this trade is a little too ambitious. Maybe the NASDAQ has a little bit of altitude sickness. And what ends up happening is that if buyers start getting convinced that this is not going to be the move, then they all head for the exit simultaneously. And that is where you get the selling begets more selling. What's kind of curious here, though, is that I think, Coach Jay, you and I both like looking at the 50% retracements in general. I think at ranges as well.
Yep.
We really rolled through the 50% retracement of this weekly, which is right around 580s. What I'm looking for in the NASDAQ right now is for this whole thing to actually come all the way down. I don't think there is a reason why it can't go all the way down to 20,800. If you're a range trader, you are looking for range to range, and that would be the trade. It doesn't mean it goes all the way down to 800s. Maybe it goes to 21,000. But regardless, there is a ton of room to the downside to kind of fulfill this range that is here. We go down to a daily chart. And we could see, this is actually really interesting too, is that you actually have can I get this one? There we go. Is that we were talking about this a while ago, the 3-day doji.
Yeah.
We basically had a daily range at the top of a weekly range, and then that couldn't hold. And then you can keep on going even further down. You had a 4-hour range that didn't hold. And then if you get down to the 1 hour, it's more intraday. But you can kind of see how you can kind of stack these ranges.
Yep.
To kind of give yourself an edge where you can have outsized reward relative to risk.
100%. Coach Paul, you were going to say something?
No, it's interesting that we saw that doji.
3 daily dojis.
Is that still the range of the FOMC day, Coach, or was that PPI from December?
Yep. So I'll bring my charts back up. We have this December 18th daily candle here, which the low of it was 21,315. We're about 100 points off of that right now. We closed on the lows today. We saw anybody who saw that close, it was a pretty heavy close. And we're not far out of that range. We can see, Dolby, that, we've been, with the exception of a couple of days outside of it, we haven't closed outside of this December 18th range much. So tomorrow will be interesting, going into the NVIDIA earnings as well. What we kind of do if we test the lows of this range near 21,300. But yeah, these markets extremely heavy right now. Speaking of, size getting traded, shout out to Dakota, kind of caught these. We've been talking about some of the bigger orders that we see on the order books today, or really for the past month, if you're paying attention to TopstepTV. But last night, there was a seller, which you don't normally see this kind of size, but around 1,000 lots between 21,785 and 787 last night. They didn't get filled, but this is kind of just going with the theme that we've been seeing. A lot of the bigger orders on the offer, right? And Coach, you've kind of been talking about, needing to trade size, needing to sell, and if they don't have a bid to kind of sell all those orders to, then we get expedited price movement, right? So, somebody has a ton of orders to sell, they're not getting it all at one price, and then we see almost 1,000 points down in 2 days, and it feels like it has the potential to continue. But of course, the markets are going to do whatever they want to. We did have a couple trades in the house account this morning. We got short. I think Dakota, Jack, myself, Andre all came in and said, where do we sell this market? If we look at the first 3-minute opening range, I'm going to look at a 3 minute. Some traders are going to look at 1 minute, 15 minutes, whatever it is. There was never really a good reason to buy this market at all. I think what we were looking for initially was a test back up to 21,800 to get in short. If you were watching how the markets traded, it happened in like 2 seconds. But again, no strong bids to defend this market at all. We can see the angle of this VWAP on a shorter time frame was just pretty much just all to the downside. I think we got in short somewhere around 740s. And in the house, we held it for about 80 points. I think Dakota held it for another 200 after that.
Yeah, monster. Absolute monster trade.
Pretty insane. Go ahead, Coach.
It's interesting on that first candle, the opening.
Yep.
As we go, that was buying, and it was the largest volume in the first 3 minutes was buying.
Yes.
So, but that buying to be confirmed when you would, like you were talking about attaching VWAP there, even without knowing what's going to happen. If we're just seeing that in VWAP, and the next 3 minutes was lower.
Yep.
I mean, this morning it was lower. Can we make it's not an assumption, it's the equation. That buying was immediately rejected by the equation. This is an assumption. I love that kind of action from being on the floor because someone waited. You got the first buying, and it said, then volume came in, size came in, said, okay, it's 60 minutes. I'll sell them at 50 without putting sell them at 40. And then what happens? Those sellers didn't leave. That size didn't leave
all day
because that first tick down in VWAP told you that in the next 3 minutes. So usually I actually jumped this a little early this morning because of that, because we closed outside of the 3-minute range.
Yep.
I was willing to take, some risk. By the way, you can do one or two micros, and if it does get under, you can add to it. A couple micros was worth $400 or $500
on a 300-point move. You don't need a ton of size to trade.
Oh my goodness, there was someone in chat who said that, oh, what are these professional traders doing? Only trading a 1 lot. Listen, I see way more unprofessional traders trading 15 lots than I see professional traders trading 1 lots.
Okay, that's a great
talk
point,
about it, Dolby.
Because
getting all riled up, Jay.
You're trading your equity. So professional fund managers don't put on big. It's relative to the size of their equity, which is in the billions. Okay, it's not. So if you have a $100,000 combine, you're starting out with $3,000 in risk. So it's relative to the volatility. Now you can get ahead. I could go back and say I sold 15 minis, and I'm a hero today, right?
Yep.
But what's my risk to put it on? You could, if you were playing in Vegas and you say, well, I want to bet 10,000 on this next hand, and you have a couple $100 worth of chips, they're not going to take your bet. Right? So it's relative to the size of your account. And when you go live, you have to face margin.
Yep.
So this is all baked into the system. So
not only is it just your account size, it's also your conviction. You can have a big ass account, but if you have low conviction in the trade or in the day, you don't have to trade 15 lots. You can trade 1 or go down to a micro or just dip your toe in the water. Like there's no reason to be never mind, I don't know, like a size king,
gunslinger.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean about your trades or whatever. Just trade what you feel like.
Right.
And trade what's reasonable for your account. But I can tell you right now, the market is only going to let you the market is only going to let you make however much money you can handle risking. And I can guarantee you that if you're over leveraged in a trade, you're going to start making real dumb decisions because you're not ready for the size yet. You just
makes
aren't.
A ton of sense. Makes a ton of sense.
I know that because I've done it before. And then you go back and you trade 1 lots and it's like, oh yeah, I feel fine. Well, it's like, oh yeah, because you were over leveraged, dumb. No wonder you were sweating bullets.
Yeah,
you weren't ready yet.
It's usually not and I think a lot of times we go to, I need to work on my trading psychology and things like that. And it's just like, maybe you don't. Maybe you just need to trade a size that you can stomach. So
or your account can handle even more.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, a couple micros, it was $600-700.
Massive amount.
Yeah.
In a half an hour. I don't know. Am I being reasonable, or am I being greedy, or am I being short-armed? I'd say it's reasonable.
I'd say so.
Yeah, just a 1 lot in NASDAQ can make you so much money. So much,
especially on a day like today. Especially on a day like today.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other trades that we had in the house. We had, we've been calling it the J trade here, but we did have that exhaustion volume at the lows here, into that low right around 440. I thought this had the potential to be the low for the day, and it did for the most part until, we got back into the afternoon. in this huge sell-off, we did get a 3-minute volume candle that was higher than the open. Almost immediately after, we got a candle close above it, so it made it a little difficult to buy. But I think Jack did jump in on a long here. Dakota and I started looking for longs around this general area. And again, just for the simple fact that we had all of this exhaustion volume at this low, in order to take that out, we need to see continuation, and we see the volume pattern that kind of died off right away. Didn't make it easy to buy. This is still a 50-point range, and you ask the question, where do I manage risk? And you're looking at the market this way, right? We don't know that this is going to happen after the fact. We see it this way. So how do you manage risk there? I think we got in on another trade around 520s, just on the way back up after we got above this VWAP from that low of the day at the point. And a really nice bounce, right? I did take this trade in my personal account, and I got in late. And speaking about trading small size, I got in with a 1 lot and made about $800 late to this move. So you do not need to trade a ton of size or be right about the market direction overall for the day. You need to trade a move, get in, get out, and that's about it. We pushed back up to around 50% of the drop consolidated. We can see again volume dying as the market's moving up. I'm looking at this as not convinced buying, and then again closing on the lows. So going into tomorrow, this market looks very heavy. One thing I was looking at here that kind of matched up with what Dolby was looking at, and then we'll move on to another market. 200 moving average on the daily chart, 20,730 right now. I think by the time we kind of get through the rest of the week, that might be a little bit closer to 21,000. We haven't tested it in a little while, and looks like we might want to.
Yeah. It lines up.
Go ahead, Coach. Coach, you were going to say something.
No, I have a question for Dolby when we go back to the short term about.
Okay.
We had that J trade which gave heat, right? But it never made a new low. So I'm a terrible range trader. At this point, what do you look for as a range trader from the point of that J trade low?
Yeah, the trade that most interested me in the long side was actually around 955 or 950, which would be these set of candlesticks right here. And the reason being, and this, around 10 o'clock, 955, 950 is that. So what I was looking at here is it's essentially a 5-minute range at the bottom. And the reason why this looked so enticing is because it was a cheap trade, right? And a cheap trade would be try to buy 450s and then set a stop at new lows. And with a cheap trade, you want to put the responsibility in the market's hands to do something that is novel or new. And making a new low is a novel thing, right? That you have to put that pressure on the market to, hey, come and stop me out and go do something different that you haven't done yet. And so that to me right here would have been a really cheap long, which I would have taken, sure as hell would have tried to take it if I could have. And it would have risked maybe 20, 30 points, but the upside was, monumental. And so that's how you try to get these cheap trades. So that's what I was looking for as far as the range trade goes. Alternatively, one of my other really favorite setups was the stair step short. And that had a much better range trade, which was the short at 21,650, because you had support back here at February 21st. And then that ended up becoming resistance right at 650. And you had some really good 5-minute ranges where you could have very easily defined risk. And basically it's the same pattern. You're just on the other side of it. So it's, can I grab a short at 650? And then can I put a stop above 660? And then, hey, market, I dare you to go and do this thing.
Stop me up.
Stop me out, baby.
Yeah, we used to
different
say it
B-word.
in a much cruder range. Yeah,
yeah, right.
Different B-word on the floor, maybe, but same sentiment.
It's what you want to happen. You want to have the market prove you wrong. And the problem is that if you have a stop that's, say, underneath 660, well, the market doesn't have to do much to prove you wrong, right? So you don't really want to, you want to make sure your stop is out and above where you think that resistance really is. Because if it's down below, well, the market can do this all day long. It can chop around and get you stopped out all day long, but it hasn't done this thing yet. It hasn't gone up to 660 or 670. So, make sure when you do like a range trade that you are putting the responsibility in the hands of the market to go and do something it has not done yet. Like those are the type of bets that I like making as a trader, instead of making the bet where it's like, oh, I'm going to bet the market's going to do this one thing that it hasn't done yet today. Like,
it's like, what makes you
what
special?
are the odds? Yeah, right.
Right. All right, we got a question for you, Dolby. What made you look at 660 there? And then I got another question from Mo. Once we get through that.
Perfect. Yes. Larger time frame, or move everything. So one of my favorite setups for a range trade. So it's a trending range trade, right? So you have a range, which could just be here. This is a range. Okay, well, now it's a trending range, right? Because now it's an uptrend. So if we inverse the chart, now it's a downtrend. Well, we can basically apply that to this move right here and right there. So we had our range on a large time frame, 30-minute chart. We ended up breaking lows.
Yep.
And then we popped back up, and this is what I call a stair step trade, or a stair step short, stair step long. And it's just the act of the market. Let me get a fresh one. Basically going up, consolidating, going up, consolidating, going up, consolidating. And obviously you can inverse it. But what ends up happening is that you sort of get the stair step where resistance becomes support, support becomes resistance, so on and so forth. And so that's why I got to that level of 660, is because we supported there once, broke through it, came back up, and then it acted exactly as resistance. And then anyone who tried to preempt the long at 650 had an opportunity. Yeah, they got effing smoked. I'm surprised they even are alive right now. And what ends up happening is that, let's say you did get short 650, you're a long-term trader, you took all of this heat, 150 points, and the market is kind enough to give you the opportunity to get flat and out of your trade. Now, if you're a buyer, the only way to get out of your trade is to become a seller. And so now you end up getting a bunch of sellers, or former buyers who now become sellers, and then they can push price down. This formation happens on a lot of time frames, and the reason I like it is because typically you end up getting consolidations kind of at this area of where support becomes resistance, and vice versa. And that can offer up cheap trades, because if you go down to like a 5-minute chart, and this totally looks like an insane chart now, absolutely bananas, but
Bastia charting.
Yeah, we got we can get cheap trades like that. So if you can find sort of that staircase where buyers become sellers, sellers become buyers, it can offer cheap opportunities, and that's all that we like. We're not looking for momentum as range traders. We're not getting in because it's pretty. We're getting in because it's cheap.
Good stuff, Dolby time. All right, let's go back to my charts for a second. Anything else you guys got on the equities before we move on?
No, I'm in learning mode once you're off equities. So as soon as you hit gold or any other market, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys talk about.
Good stuff. So the one other question I have from Mo in the chat is, do you give any credence to the NASDAQ being down 6 days in a row? It's not something that happens often. So good eye, right? The one thing I'm looking at on this daily chart is the 3 of those 6 days are pretty much unchanged days, even though they did close, lower than they opened. But yeah, if you look back, there aren't many days where we have, more than 5-6 days in a row to the downside. What does that mean for tomorrow? Who knows? Anything can and will happen. But if we start to bounce, I'd go with that. What about you, Coach Paul? Anything else you got before we go?
Well, what's interesting is I didn't know it was that many days with those little dojis, but more credence to big sellers can't find willing buyers. That will continue till we see some kind of volume event with price. That's why we talk about it feels heavy. So it was a great spot. I didn't even realize that. So can that go to 7? Well,
Could.
it's 50-50
Sure.
shot.
Yeah. Right.
But it is. If I'm a long-term buyer, I'm concerned. But it's still in the range of
Yep.
the candle.
And that's just in the Nasdaq. The S&P had one day that did end to the upside, so the S&P is down 3 days in a row. Right, just the Nasdaq. All right, so let's move on to a market that made new all-time highs today. Gold, and it did it the gold way. We keep saying this,
The golden way. Yeah.
the golden way.
It's
New,
it's a great Robert trade. It goes up there, makes the new high.
yep,
If you buy it, just take a little, and then the longer term sellers come in and go, "I got gold for you."
yeah.
Um,
2974 new all-time high in gold, and then immediately after sells off 30 points the way gold likes to make all-time highs. This is
So for the
look Go ahead.
so
Go
for
ahead,
the
Dobby.
uninitiated, Coach Jay, what exactly is this behavior you're referring to? I never watch gold. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So something Coach Paul and I have kind of seen recently. Gold has been a market that's been in this uptrend for the last year and a half at this
Hmm.
point. Sometimes it just trends and it trends really nicely and there's no pullbacks. But then when gold starts to flatten out a bit, and I'm looking at this 200 moving average, shout out to Coach Paul, where the
Hmm.
angle on this started to flatten out. Every time it makes a new all-time high, it almost, Coach, how many times out of 10 have we seen this happen? But it makes a new all-time high and almost immediately after sells off.
Mm.
by $30.
Right.
So it's well, let's break it down to a 3 minute and see if we can see J trades up there.
I mean, it's in a
So here
really
we
good
go.
range. The
Yeah.
daily for gold is in a very nice range between 2930 and 2973. So certainly cheap opportunities for shorts. Up
So
there at those highs.
so there we go. To where is that part where we make all-time highs?
Hmm.
Right
All
here.
right. And if we just keep going, the biggest volume comes in at that high. That's
This one.
important to us. Yeah,
This one here.
that's
Yep.
that one right there. Now let's move it all the way to the right, and we know what's going down. But let's see how it builds. Right there. Do you want to sell it? I have no reason to. I want to be long this thing.
Yep.
If you want to be long at the highs, if you're trading well, right?
Hmm.
Yep.
So let's start there. And we see the a big volume. Is that the open? Is that
That
8 o'clock
is
open?
8 o'clock, 8 o'clock Central Time. So the house
Uh,
account was long into this. Shout out to the opening range or opening call team taking that opening range breakout long. But yeah, that's right at 8 a.m. Central Time.
all right. So what time is that high made? Let's do the opening now. See what time that high is made. This looks great. Now there's an engulfing candle.
Yep.
Now that high volume becomes very important. Why? Well, it's high volume. It's buying. It's buyers. Now let's tag a VWAP to the all-time high with the highest volume.
Yep. Right here, this red line.
And now we get an engulfing candle. If I'm long, I was into that high volume candle. This thing's going. This is the time it's going to 3,000, maybe 3,300.
Get your air horns ready.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Now we get that engulfing candle, and look what happens again. We have, was it a doji or a hammer candle on top? That's concerning. It's not. It's not following through. But even so, if I'm long, when I see that VWAP turn off the highs, just go lower with that. If I'm long, I'm not waiting for an answer. I'm out.
Yeah.
It's failed buying on high volume at all-time highs. And we know this pattern. We talked about it. It's like this thing is vulnerable to a 30 point, or I'll use supply. Maybe it's an ICT term, supply and demand. What happened at the all-time high?
Ton of supply up there.
Well, we had a supply of sellers. There they are. Now we've tagged them. So even if I didn't sell, if I'm long there, I had market information that gave me a signal that this thing, it's been sold. Or the buying, better yet, the buying stopped.
Yep. Yeah, and that's exactly what it looked like. There was, you guys know I watch Quan Tower. There was a ton of absorption at this high right up here. I think there was about a 500 contract order that got placed in a second and immediately sold off from there. And just a really nice reversal at that point. I did take a long in gold this morning. And just real quick, why I took that long, because we've also seen it hold this 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. And every time we get down here, it's kind of channeling upwards right now off of that 200 moving average. When we got down to 2950s, looked like it was going to hold, just went ahead and took the long for a quick scalp back up to VWAP. Ultimately, it was a trade that I could have held longer, but see money, take money, especially I'm buying a market that just sold off 30 points now. If I know gold, maybe I should have just set my stop at 30 points as well and see which one got hit first. And it probably would have been, my take profit, but I'm not going to trade that way. But a really nice reversal and a market that's continuing to the upside, right? Making new all-time highs. It's not going to be easy unless we see that liquidation, kind of short covering. We just need to buy it. That might happen closer to 3,000. But we're not far. We are not far.
Buyers have done a good job coming in and supporting gold. I mean, even if it is selling off at highs, they're still coming in at higher prices. They're maintaining good levels. It's, stuck above 29.30 for a couple days already. It's found support at 29.30, 29.40. How many times can gold resist 3,000 and making new highs? Right. Who knows?
And then we see a $100 sell-off. Any ranges you're seeing in Dolby on your charts, or do we want to go over to another market?
For gold?
Yep.
Yeah. 4-day range is very solid in gold right now. That would be from about 29.34 up to 29.74. So you have four daily candles, all approximately kind of just wedged all right inside. You call it barcoding, consolidation range, it's all the same stuff. But yeah, very solid range. And if you were like a shorter time frame day trader, you were probably looking for discount buys down at lows, and they were there. These are all cheap trades. Like, oh, hey, gold, I dare you to make a really big deep low. Can't do it. Didn't do it. Couldn't do it again. And then these are all cheap trades. Just bids right back up again. So, having ranges in the back of your mind is good because it can kind of give you an idea of the range of possibility of profits, right? If it's going range to range and you have a good idea of what the range is, you kind of know the halfway point, the full point, and then the point where it breaks out. So it can give you a good roadmap.
Good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Dolby. Coach Paul, anything else you got on gold?
Looks very bullish still.
Yeah, it does.
I would agree. All right. Where do we want to go from here? We go to crude oil, and then anything else that was on your scouting report, Coach Paul?
Let's take a look at Bitcoin. We'll get to that.
Cannot forget Bitcoin. Here's crude oil. Here is last night's open. And off of that $70 range, man. I've been saying I'm bullish crude above $70 if it's going to hold. It held today. I didn't buy it, but actually I see Dolby's charts up, so let me go ahead and share mine. But there we go. Bouncing off that $70 level. We opened up last night below it. We opened up 69.80 and almost immediately gets bought back up. We can see that 30-minute candle, Coach Paul, last night's open. 50% of that was right around $70, and it held the rest of the night.
I don't think that half hour does justice. It gapped lower. Go to the 3-minute from last night.
Oh, it was, yeah.
It did gap lower.
I think it was just, maybe it might have been a fat thumb error. I told you to buy them. because I watched it. I'm like, because I'm still short on a longer term trade, and I'm like, wait, did I read that wrong? It happened that fast, and that was like half today's range. Anemic buying, I'll call it. Maybe I still under the half-hour 200 moving average. But that was a gap that was it was kind of a strange opening. That's why I still started to think I think that was an error.
An error? Oh, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, just look at that. I was on a 1 minute on a Sunday, and it just came right back like, no, you were supposed to buy it, kind of thing. And like, I don't know, but yeah, found support. Really was the dull trade. So is that a range trade that someone like Dolby could profit on?
Yes.
Give it to you, Dolby. Show us the way.
Yes, 100%. So crude oil is kind of my alma mater, to be honest. That's what everyone was trading back in the day at Topstep, and it's actually still in a really good range bound market. The 5-minute range is really reliable. Also, crude tends to behave itself when it comes to ranges, doesn't extend past the range too much, unlike NASDAQ. And the range I really like right now in crude is the daily range is really solid. Actually, I have another tip too for crude oil that I can share after this. But we got this, 69.80s up to 73s. Like, we've been stuck in this range for a long time. And so that would have been, like I said, a really cheap long just to go ahead and nab, 69.80s, because it's like, well, how much do I really have to risk here? And it's like not a lot. And the upside is like $4, because that's the high of the range. The midpoint, it's like $1.50. It's 150 ticks. That's a lot of money. And if we want to talk about stair stepping, we could even potentially draw a stair step line here too. Right. So we had a consolidation here at, I don't know, basically all of November and part of December, because crude oil hasn't really done shite in a while. So we had a big range. It broke out and then came all the way back down, but resistance became support, and then buyers came in and supported. However, there's another little trick I really like for crude oil on the intraday, and it is evens, 20s, 50s, and 80s. So crude oil tends to respond to price at those intervals.
Okay.
So let's do, here's 80s, evens, so double zero, 20s, 50s, and 80s. Those are the kind of like my crude oil fibs, if you will. And you'd be surprised how often crude oil would kind of play around those levels. So if you are trading crude, highly recommend taking a look at them. Just off the top of my head, here, look at this. Not that one, but like this little spike. Where'd we go to? 72.20.
Interesting. Dolby
Yeah.
giving out the crude secrets.
It is definitely a little crude secret.
Was that you buying that opening last
Support off
night?
of 80s. I was asleep, man. What are you talking about? I was asleep. But it's just, every market has a different personality. Different levels are important to different markets. But here's another one. Okay, here's the bounce off of 71.80. And you can just, here's one off of 71. What is this? 70.20. Here's two of them. 70.20 there, 70.20 there. What about this bounce? This one was 50s. It happens all the time in crude oil. The problem is that crude oil is super volatile market right now. Not really, but if you do like crude, keep an eye on those. Evens, 20s, 50s, and 80s for crude oil.
Good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Dolby. All right, let's I don't think we have any questions that I missed, but I also haven't been looking at Discord, so let me all right, I think I did skip that one, but let's go over to Bitcoin real quick, Coach Paul. I'm gonna pull up a micro Bitcoin chart here, and you were
Start with the daily.
talking about a daily, so we're out there. What are we looking at here, sir?
All right, let's make that a line chart. I'm loving my line charts now. All right, what do we see on the line chart? A double top. We see the 20 turning over and the 50. All right, let's double top. Where's the next neckline, the lowest close. You've got that marked. And where are we at this very moment?
Right at that neckline.
So this could be a Adobe trade of a quick buy risk where you're going to find out quickly, or this market is going down, is going to liquidate. It has to make up to me. I'm going to put the first half an hour's range, attach an anchored VWAP to it, and trade accordingly. I think it on the downside, it could pick up momentum. There's obviously there's more longs here than that are like, okay, where, it's been a while since we've been in this range probably since before Christmas.
Yeah, pretty much. We definitely saw the buying
Um,
momentum slow down above 100,000, and they really just have
Yeah.
not come back in to trade above it.
And this is a daily. The 20 is turned twice now. Further confirmation of a double top, but the 50 is flat. That's the purple one. Purple average price. It needs to go. That market has well, if you've watched it for the last 12 years, when it liquidates,
Yeah,
it can go quickly. But
Twitter
I'm not
blows up.
saying it is. I'm saying as a trading opportunity, I think it's going to move away from this level. So that's on my scouting report.
Awesome stuff.
It's been speaking of ranges, Bitcoin might be the king of ranges right now. I mean, we're going all the way back to like November 18th. High of 11, what is it, 110,800-ish, a low of 90,600-ish, like a ton of days all stuck in between. And then additionally, on a more short time frame sort of schedule, it did set up a megaphone formation, which is one of the nastier ranges that you can have. But megaphone is higher highs and lower lows. So there's a higher high, that was a higher high, that was a higher high, and then a bunch of lower lows. So maybe we do keep on going all the way down. But kind of an unusual pattern, but I also don't trade a ton of Bitcoins, just kind of what I'm seeing here. So I wonder if there's some traders maybe waiting on the sidelines, because typically the megaphone formation is kind of like a search and destroy formation, low volume, low liquidity. It's easy to run stops both ways. So maybe there's something big primed in Bitcoin, but I think your downside targets, 91,000, 92,000, I think those are totally in play because they're within the range.
So Dolby, with this megaphone pattern, right? If traders are going to trade this, where we're making higher highs, higher lows, or lower lows, I know you don't trade Bitcoin, but from this technical, if you were a buyer here, is this, because I'd look at this and say, with the naked eye, not trading ranges, this is the low of the range, it's a buy, but you've identified it as a megaphone. So would you wait to buy it lower with that technical setup?
Yeah, I'd probably want to see price around like 92,000 and see if we can start maybe stop running some of these wicks that we have. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of little wicks down here. And listen, there's a lot of traders that set stops just on the other side of wicks. And I call them they're the weakest longs, right? And the reason we know that is because there's a lot of times we are that trader that right? Just a lot of times for trading, just apply your own psychology to the market, right? If we're not very confident in our longs, then we're going to have our stop like one tick below exactly right below where the low is. And if you have a little bit of capital, it doesn't cost you all that much to go down there and grab that liquidity and just bid it right back up again. But the weakest long or short is one tick above or below the high, because they just do not want to accept any risk. And that means you're the cheapest person to go and get if they need size.
Makes a ton of sense. Good stuff. All right. We got about 10 minutes left. Any other markets that we want to discuss? Any questions in the chat? It's been a good session so far. I'm not seeing too many questions.
Oh, the yen. We haven't
Let's.
talked about the yen in a while.
I think I talked about it
That's
on
hit the
Friday when you were
200 day.
out, Coach. But let's look at
Yeah.
it. It's an interesting market right now. Oh, I don't have the chart up. There it is.
All right, but let's go to a daily because it hit on the continuation chart. There it is. It's at an inflection point for me. We've sat there Thursday, Friday, and today. Now there's news out of Japan. There's a Japanese PPI coming out. There's a few big numbers coming out. So it's this market. This could be a cup and handle. It's definitely got a cup going. Which way that tea pours out, I assume it's green tea at this
Green
point.
tea. Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
See what you did there?
Yes,
Had some this morning.
Had some. So, with that, can we ignite a big rally here? I don't know. It has potential, or does it give up the ghost and do what it's done the last time we were here? Tonight, with the big news coming out of Japan, that's going to be on my watch list.
Is that news tonight? Oh yeah, Japanese service PPI. Okay, so Dakota, if you're watching, if you're trading the Nikkei tomorrow night or tonight, just be aware that there's some news out of Japan, which could cause some volatility in the Nikkei and in the Japanese yen.
Yeah, and I think there's tomorrow sometime there's a leading indicators index report coming out. So it's without knowing that news, I know this. Technically speaking, it's got a high probability of moving away from this level with some speed. So that's on my radar. Which way it goes, I'll leave that up to the volume and to the bigger traders, to the shark to decide. But I'm going to swim behind that shark and not get eaten up.
There we go. All right. D off to bed. Thank you for joining us, Deanna. Catch D for the London Open, 3:30 a.m. Central Time. Skylar Cole, do you take into consideration on a long time frame the total U.S. stock market value and the annualized GDP? Skylar, for my trading decisions, I'm going to say no. To me, that's just a little bit too much information to be making decisions on a shorter time frame. But we got about 5 minutes left. Dolby Tom, I want to ask you something about what's been going on with Topstep TV. I know you're a big part of Topstep TV, and you know the rule number one about a perfect game is you don't talk about a perfect game. But talk to me about what you think's been going on with the house account process. I know we're on a little bit of a win streak here. We're not trading to keep the streak alive, but what do you think has been going well? What do you think can continue to go well? What can we do to keep the streak alive, if anything at all?
Yeah, Hoagland's doing great, which is awesome to see. I think there's been a lot of changes have taken place when it comes to the house account. I think one of the biggest ones is sizing down. We are not trading a ton of size anymore. We're not getting in with 5, 10, 15 lots. I think we're kind of getting back to basics a little bit, which is great. Trading onesies, twosies, it's adding up really well. I think there's also a little bit of discretion is also being had, which is great. I don't think we're just copying literally every single trade. I think we're trying to like really hone in and find what we think are maybe the best trades to be taking. They're the most aligned with the market.
Right.
I think, you know, in like 2024, part of the issue is that we were just trying to take every single house trade we could. And there was just so much slippage occurring because, you know, we're trading the NASDAQ. When you're trading the NASDAQ and you're trying to communicate, you know, 5 different things, that takes 5 minutes. And at that point, you're probably 30 points away from wherever the NASDAQ is trading. we got rid of the check mark system. That was taking really long just to get trades in and out. So I think we just got rid of a lot of sort of baggage and have left a little bit more discretion to who's running the account, and then also just making sure we're not trading a ton of size at all. So it's really helped keep the account green. And I think the teamwork behind it has been excellent. And honestly, the calls from the traders have been really good as well. Like we're not putting on our own trades at all. I've had Gigi DeMonico give me great trades in the 11 a.m. segment or 1 p.m. segment. We're still following the traders that we have on air. We're just using a little bit more discretion when it comes to size, and it's made a huge difference, right?
Yep.
Listen, if you trade a 5 lot, it can really mess up your day. Like sizing is one of the most important things in trading. It will ruin your life if you don't respect it. But yeah, we're on an 11-day winning streak, man.
Let's keep it going.
Feels good.
Let's keep it going.
Feels very, very good.
Coach Paul, what about you? Any opinions on how the house account process has been going? I know a goal, Coach Paul, is to eventually start trading size in that house account again. Just from a coach's perspective, when, if at all, do we scale up?
Well, I do it on a monetary term.
Okay.
If you have a target, if the account size has gone up 50%, well, maybe you add one more.
Yeah.
And that's a form of adding to your winners. You've come consistency now, and that consistency has come through position sizing, right?
Yep.
And we talked about this earlier in the show, is that you can, when you're putting on the right size, you can let the trade play out.
100%.
Because then you're not feeling the weight of every damn tick. It's for me, yay. It's against me. It's for, so that process, I believe, it is bringing consistency.
Yep.
I would say is on a monetary goal, let's say it gets to a certain point, you add another 1 unit of risk. Think of it as a bet size.
Yep.
It's unit, it's a chip. So first thing is get the consistency. It doesn't even have to be winning days. It's just
consistent process.
It has to be and actually you probably want to do it into a drawdown. Like a reasonable drawdown, like 20%, where you, okay, now I can add, because two things happened. The ability to hold on a little longer, not getting forced out. That, for me, that's really important. What happens, we've all done it, and the audience knows that, you put on a 10 lot and you but
yep,
perfect timing. You get a SAG award for that for production. Oh yeah, that's what happens. So you can't jab if you've got a weight on your back, right? So great job. I'd measure it monetarily, and define a unit of risk.
Yep.
Versus whatever it is. It's now, okay, we can do 2 units of risk now.
Yeah.
That's the way I would look at it.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah. Additionally, this will be brief, but like if you trade smaller size, like Coach Paul said it in chat, it also will prevent you from hesitating of getting into a trade. So if 15 lots on, it's like, you're going to wait and wait and wait and wait and wait. But if you have 1 lot on, then it's like, yeah, I can hop in here. I can take this trade. There's not as much stress. And it's so much easier for the mental cap. Mental capital is a real thing, and size will drain it if you are not ready.
For sure. Shout out to Coach Vince. I'll leave on this comment. Absolutely respect the leverage, or it will force you to respect it. It's a great point.
Sounded like a father there. Thank you, Coach Vince.
Absolutely. Well, we are at time here. We got Coach Hoop doing a session in Discord right at 4:30. So make sure you join him over there. Show Coach Hoop some love. And of course, we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince doing classes in Discord as well, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Central Time. And then Dakota at 7:30 Central on YouTube with Slow Markets. And as we mentioned before, Dee's going to sleep early so she can be up for the London Open tomorrow at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. Want to thank everybody for joining us today. Dolby Time, we'll be seeing you sometime later this week. I think tomorrow, actually.
Tomorrow
But
and Thursday.
thank you for joining. Hit that like button if you haven't done so already. I know we are on the march to 150,000 subscribers. I don't know what the giveaway is going to be. Maybe Dolby might know a little bit. Or
I don't know anything. I know
giveaway.
literally
Why would I
nothing.
even say that? What are you talking about? But I've heard that everyone's going to be happy when we hit 150K subscribers. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your burner accounts to subscribe. You guys got anything before we go?
Oh,
Looking forward to it.
Bitcoin. Watch Bitcoin and Yen tonight.
There
Yeah.
we go.
Manage your risk. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys tomorrow and Thursday. Should be fun.
Great to have you, sir.
Awesome stuff. Thank you everyone for joining. Trade well, manage your risk, and we will see you all tomorrow. Bye.